Balazs, how does it feel to be on Simon on the sofa?
Oh, it's always the greatest gift of the universe that I can sit down with you here and now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the sofa. We both don't know what we're going to speak about.
That's the beauty, right?
Exactly. We just allowed a conversation.
Second time.
Thank you for being here on our cool sofa that we pulled out of these doors that Balazs took down so we could sit here together today.
Yes.
And so what I suggest then is that we actually sit in silence for a little bit and just breathe, and then we begin. Yeah? And see what arises within us. Yeah. So welcome everybody to another Simon on the Sofa. If you're unfamiliar with Simon on the Sofa and this is your first conversation, then welcome. I record conversations with people from all walks of life, what I call transparent conversations. They're not interviews, they're conversations. And we come together with no real preconceived plan or idea, just the fact that we want to show up and share an authentic conversation. And this is my good friend, Balazs Heller, what I call him the mighty, the one and only Balazs Heller. We've been friends for some years, and we did already record a conversation. So if you enjoy this conversation, maybe you'd like to watch the first conversation. If you're listening to this on audio, because you're listening to it on SoundCloud and not watching the video, then you won't see us. But either way, enjoy this beautiful conversation. And we're just going to show up. Wow, we have this wonderful little flying bug that's joined us. So for people watching, just before we come on this conversation, I've been a little bit frustrated and challenged by bringing this conversation alive. And then we just sat in silence for a little while so that I could also just try to let that go and let go of my reactions to the trying to bring together something very conscious and something very loving to share with the world, to benefit ourselves and benefit those that watch, benefit you that are watching and listening today. But yeah, 10 minutes ago, I'm just super challenged by this space, challenged by trying to find somewhere to sit with this lovely man that we plan to come over. And like my sort of ego aspect of myself starts trying to come in to, let's not go in the way that I had it planned. So I just want to put that out there to people listening, and I know Balazs will probably respect that so that we can actually neutralize that for myself and move that away so that what comes through us both today is more pure and not tarnished with that energy, basically. So, welcome to the sofa.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, I guess the best way to maybe show up is ask, yeah, what's alive in you at the moment? Is there anything particular that you want to bring to the conversation in this moment? And then we'll see where the dance takes us.
Well, I was thinking that the best topic we can start with is what is the purpose of our life? Who I am, or who am I? It's a question I think that we all looking for the answer, right? It's not something that it's just me wanting to know, but we all of us wanting to know deep down. But only a few percentage of humanity who actually realize how important this question is. And I remember another day, we usually send short motivational WhatsApp messages to each other, and I asked Simon, okay Simon, send me every day something interesting. And the other day he sent me one to let's meditate on death. And I really love that because most of the people do not think about death until it's knocking the door, right? And when we look into that question, who am I? It's a good starting point, you know.
From the place of death.
Yes, because then we realize that first of all, who we are we this body, which, you know, being born and going to pass on to the next world, and we need to leave that behind. And the other question, if that's the truth, and we obviously understand that because we see that around us, it's happening, then if that's the truth, then how should we live our life according to that understanding? If we know that this body, which is a beautiful tool to carry our life, our spiritual beingness throughout this whole short span of life, but if we have that, and if that is not us, because we are eternal, then what really counts in this life? How should I spend my daily life if this is not it? And if this is not it, yeah? So for me it's really fascinating when I wake up in the mornings every day, and I wake up with that understanding that, okay, I want to bring more consciousness in my life. I want to learn something new about my spirituality, which is not related to the body, which is not related to the mind. And until we go beyond these two limitations we have, we are in a way, we are wasting our time. Because what is eternal is our spiritual journey. And if this is the eternal part of who we are, then we should invest and investigate to understand what that means, rather than focusing throughout our whole life on these material things, which we like to get, which we like to feel that is ours, which we like to nourish, which is very important because the body needs to be nourished, the mind needs to be nourished. But what is beyond that? And I like to bring these three together, this mind and body and spirit, and connect them together, because that is not good either when we are just focusing on the eternal part of ourselves, because we are born into this life, right? So we have something with that part which vanishes, and we have that part which is eternal. And this is like juggling between the two, and finding that synchronized oneness between these three elements of mind, body and spirit, and between the two dimensions of eternal and limited, very much like a short span of life which we have here. And that is beautiful. So when we live our life consciously every day, we need to find a way how we can nourish, obviously, the mind and the body, but also how we can nourish that spiritual entity of who we are. And unfortunately, because of the society, because these external forces which is pulling us different directions, and because of our relationships, because our family, because our obligations, this really not helping to go beyond the mind, to go beyond the body. So we need to establish a very strong spiritual connection to the source, and that spiritual connection helps us to have this internal compass, which always, no matter what is happening, which always guiding us back to that source of connection. And for that, we need to have a structure in our life, and that's what I actually wanted to talk to you. The structure is something that, you know, I hear and see around, because I'm part of spiritual communities, and I have mainly a lot of spiritual people around me, and I see that what is really lacking of the spiritual understanding of this life is commitment, number one. So there is no commitment and there is no structure in people's life. Just because we are talking about spirituality, it doesn't mean that we should not have commitment. We should not have strong, structured life. Because just going with the flow, it's great, but it's not enough. And that is my journey, obviously, so I'm sharing what I feel about this. I've been in a structured life since age 6, when I started gymnastics, and I had a very nicely evolving understanding about life because I was nourishing that structure. I knew that this is the time for this is the time for that, and I let also the flow coming in. So this structure needs to be in a way fluid. And when we come to spirituality and we talk about this structure, I'm not saying to be rigid, because you can see that also in religions, right? That they're very rigid and they're not open-hearted many times. It's very rigid. It says this, so this is the way. I'm not saying that. We need to have the independent search for truth. This is a very key element of this structure which needed to have that spiritual growth. So we need to be very much open-minded and we need to be very humble. That's why we have prayers. That's why we do meditation, to learn about this surrender, to learn about humility. So this is the other two very important elements besides structure and commitment, which I truly believe these 4 things are so essential to our spiritual awakening, to our spiritual journey in our everyday life. I don't know if it's a good start.
Well, it's funny because I was, I'm like, yeah, we have like 20 minutes, half hour for a little conversation, and then it's like, okay, let's talk about all of that juice in 20, 30 minutes. And there's a lot there, and we can break down one little piece of that and just dissect it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe with that in mind, because, when we use words like, mind, body, spirit, or we use the word source, or connecting to the source, or spiritual people, or that what we should do or shouldn't do as well, it's like, or how it can be or it can't be. There's a very thin line, like walking a tightrope of, like you just said, coming from a place of maybe, as some religions and some other beliefs and doctrines do, where this is how it is, and this is how it should be, or this is how it life is. So I think that question, the ultimate question of who am I, is really one that everyone's been having for so long, and it is a great, let's say, portal, window, invitation to dissolve all the other aspects that you spoke about, the impermanence, the uncertainty, the identification to self, the identification to form, and so on, while at the same time, it still leads you deeper into a sort of mysterious not knowing.
Yes.
And it's in that not knowing where most people are running away from, because that not knowing brings up the fear. And that not knowing, because if we think this is a sofa and this is a cloth and you are a human, I create a consensus reality that tells me that, okay, yeah, this is a human, this is a sofa, and this is a cloth, so I feel safe here, and this is a wall, and I feel protected against this wall, and all of a sudden I can bring this sort of vast, expansive, creative force into some sort of identification.
Yes.
So on one level, there's that, which I do, you do, and everybody does in order to function in this consensus reality. And at the same time, there's this constant inquiry, curiosity, and intrigue to go beyond those realities, beyond the dimensions, beyond the paradigms that we've created, right? Because we can also, I think, maybe not every single human being, but on some level, people can feel the sort of paradox with that vastness and that insignificance, that duality of like, I am physical and it seems solid, and at the same time I'm 99.9999% matter and space. So how is that solid, right? So it's like that we're dancing in that constant. And then, of course, you have the different people that are non-dualist and the different beliefs that can take you around all of this mystery. And I feel for a lot of people that I've met along this path so far, is it just becomes too much. It becomes too serious. It becomes too confusing. The mystery is too mysterious to even go into, because, you know, to some extent, there's that beautiful saying, isn't there, by Rumi, is that what you are seeking is seeking you.
True.
So it's like there's that sense of that, you know, we're trying to look for something that we already are. You're already it, so there's nothing to find because you're already it. So you're constantly going back on yourself.
Yes.
And then that brings me to the story of Paulo Coelho, the alchemist, which is like we go out seeking, go around, have all these experiences, and then we come full circle back to the realization that we were already it, right? What we were seeking, we already were.
Yes.
So in that essence, there's that dance with like, who am I? And I still haven't met anybody that clearly defines this is what I am. But of course, you know, neuroscience will tell you one thing, that we're, you know, we're atoms, we're space, we are, you know, we are the field. And then, you know, others will say we are a hologram, we're an illusion. You know, others will say we are all that ever was, all that ever is, and all that ever will be. We're an infinite unfolding of pure creation. There is no beginning, no end. Time is an illusion, and we're all just, it's just what is. And there is literally nothing else but what is.
Yes.
And you are all of it, right? And then you know, and then you dance in the, maybe let's say, many of the other flawed beliefs, because I believe all beliefs are flawed. And I love the word belief because it has the word lie inside. Belief.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, for me, the word belief just says that it's not fully true. And then maybe just to throw in here for you is that, like, there's that sense of fear that comes up for people when we talk about discipline or structure or commitment. Those three things humans seem to go, ooh, ooh, and run away from, right? But I changed the word discipline to blisscipline.
Wow.
And the reason why I changed the word discipline to blisscipline, when I heard that, by another person, and I just grabbed that, because blisscipline is more like, okay, if I have discipline, if I have commitment, it leads me to bliss. True. It leads me to, you know, that state of being that is almost more my natural state of being, that exuberance, that joy, that gratitude, that love of life, of the wonder, of the awe, of the mystery, of the unknown, right? Yes. And it's like blisscipline leads me there. But if I don't have blisscipline, or I don't commit to something, whatever that might be, then I'm missing a huge, you know, window, let's say, or again, portal into a different way of being, a different dimension.
True.
So I don't know if that doesn't really answer the question in terms of, like, who are we? Because I still laugh and say, well, who I am, I still don't want to say or know what I truly am. Meaning that the minute that I say who I am,
you limited yourself.
Yeah.
And you put yourself into something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I would add to what I mentioned, those four, is passion. I think it's so important. You look your children, right? They learn the most actively when they are passionate about what they do.
Right.
And they are continuously passionate until they are ruined. And they just accept. And they just, okay, I go to school. And then you have a paper which is called you are this and that. And okay, I go to work. Okay, this is who I am. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I am this and that. But if you do not do this with passion and excitement and joy, then it's just like a slow motion of dying. And it reminds me of a very nice situation when I was traveling in... I hope he's doing it with passion too, you know? It's important.
It didn't sound too passionate. He's just cruising along like a lawnmower. Anyway,
so,
go on, say yeah.
When I been to on a journey in Mexico, and I stayed in a hostel, and I met a guy there who was in his probably 70s, 80s, and I was so inspired by this guy, you know, because this guy was coming from the US with his own bike, and he was like a child, you know. We could easily talk about about life on a language of love and compassion and joy, and these things vibrating from people, they are alive. Once it's gone, you are in a mood which is pulling you down. You become heavy, you become depressed, you become negative, you become all these things which is not who we really are, or this is not what we were born to be, you know. So whatever, when we look for the answer who we are, we also need to find what is our motivation in this life. And this is a very important key also, to find our purpose in our life, our mission in this life, because in the end of the day we are in this material world, and we need to find a way to create wealth in order to make a better world, because I truly believe that through giving service to humanity we create a better world. And we should do something, we should have a mission, everyone should have a mission to do something good, which creates a better, more awakened consciousness in this world. So going back to passion and going back to find the purpose in your life, you need to find a way how you can do a profession, for example, which helps you to grow, to vibrate on a higher consciousness, and to give back what you received. Because we are continuously in a flow, like a fountain, you know. The fountain is giving us water, right? That's the purpose of its existence. So imagine you are walking in the desert for several hours, and far away you see a beautiful oasis, right? And you see a fountain as you get closer and closer, and you arrive there and you open the tap, and nothing comes out. Isn't it very disappointing, isn't it?
No, it would be. It hasn't happened for me, but thankfully,
no,
it would be.
You know, in many people's life, that's what is happening. There are lots of disappointment. And the fountain, which we are all, the water comes only out of this fountain if it gives water. And then it flows through.
Okay, so what you're saying, that the essence of who we really are is being switched off, and we're not allowing our true essence to flow.
Yes, because we are not connected to the source.
Right, but before we talk about connecting to the source, what I want to pick up on is that you use the words, everyone needs a mission, and everybody should or would benefit, or listening to your words, would benefit from having some purpose or some meaning, and then at the same time, if they were doing good. But again, there's that dance that I know exactly what you are pointing to there, but there's that dance where, for starters, this concept of good and bad is very open to interpretation, because what somebody thinks is good or bad is not necessarily good or bad, and what we think somebody doing bad is, that's where they're at in their own evolutionary state, and that could be leading them to do something of great service or great whatever.
Yes, everything has its reason.
Everything has
but
reasons.
The truth is still truth. Harming is still harming.
Right, but
it to make good, do service someone who is in pain.
No, but at that time it might not only serve. What my point being is that if, just to play with this vision, if everything is as it is and all that ever was is,
bless you,
like that sneeze, right, and that it's all happening as it should, and you and I are not the ones that have got up this morning and tried to decipher whether our body pumps blood or what happens on every point of this planet, right? Yes. It's happening. Yes. It's all happening all at once. Then ultimately my sense is that the minute we try to change what is, we're in conflict to what is. And at the same time, I hear what you're pointing to, where there's that conscious choice that we can make to actually have an influence on the whole from the choices we make. For example, if we're more loving and kind and we serve, and we are aligned to our choice of a higher purpose or our choice of meaning or whatever, that can be more of a fulfilling, fruitful existence. But there's a thin line, because we're ultimately potentially sitting here saying that that's what you or the listeners or anybody else should do. And there's just one thing I want to say, is that when we say would, could or should, there's an element of violent communication in that.
Yes.
Just to be honest, and I know where you're coming from, and just to say, by the way, Balazs is Hungarian, and
I'm a world citizen. Let's put it there.
he's a world citizen. But the point is beautifully his first language is in English. So sometimes how he does express himself, he uses words that not always mean what you say. I
My
just want to
English
say
is not as good as Simon's.
no, it's not that. But I want to say that because because I know that
my way of expression is not probably as transparent what I try to mean.
Sometimes, right?
Yes, of course.
And sometimes people can misunderstand you from that because you are very disciplined and very committed to your life, your purpose, your family, the mission that you're on, the wanting to serve, the wanting to create a more beautiful world for yourself and for others.
Yeah.
Because you're so driven by that, sometimes it can seem like that could scare people, right? That could scare people.
Really?
It could scare people because all of a sudden they're like, wow, I don't have that level of commitment. I don't have that level of discipline. I don't have that level of tenacious perseverance, right? So that can actually scare people. So the reason why I bring that up is that it can be violent communication for people when we say, you should do this, or you should do that, or they should do that, or, you know, because it comes from that, like, they have to change. Whereas ultimately, in a world where if you and I leave our bodies tomorrow, we know that everything is, you know, all is well in all of creation. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
But at the same time, for the funky paradox, all is well in all of creation takes a time to get to that space. And during that evolution to come to that awareness, we can be doing a whole heap of, let's say, futile, pointless, to some extent, unconscious acts. But then at the same time, just to throw in there, we also need that. I did many unconscious acts, and probably still how I act now is unconscious on the level of where I am at, right?
Yes.
How I acted before our call today was unconscious.
Yes, and that is our, how do you say, our human part.
Right.
You know, we need to see that we are not perfect, and we need to acknowledge that. You know, when you think that you know it all, you have it all, and when you cannot say I don't know, then there's something wrong with you.
So with that in mind, then, if we say like, who am I, and we're pointing to the invitation of who we are, like, just because I know this conversation, we could talk on this for hours.
Yes.
Like, who are we? Who are you? Who do you see who are you at this stage, or how does Balazs see who you really are based on your path? Because that might be nicer for the people listening to hear.
I'm a spiritual being on this human journey, and here with a mission to create unity in this world, to serve that higher consciousness, which is using me as a tool to create unity in this world. So at this stage of my life, this is how I live my life upon, to serve humanity in order to create unity with everything I do. And there are different tools, spiritual virtues, which help me on this journey.
Okay, so hold that there. So when you say that everybody should have a mission, or to at least inquire into who they truly are, do you feel that everybody is a spiritual being having a human experience, and that their mission is to create unity?
Exactly.
So, so do you feel that everybody's mission is to create unity within themselves and then into the collective field?
Yes.
So a question for you then. Why is there so much separation?
But before the question,
Please.
let me just say something. When I say everybody should have a mission, everybody has a mission. You know, it's not something that you don't have. It's like you cannot say that I'm not existing.
Yeah,
It's
by
something-
being here, you're already on the mission.
Exactly.
That's what you mean.
Because you are here, you have a mission. Now, to figure it out, it takes energy. And takes energy and work and understanding and a lot of peeling, you know?
Right.
A lot of peeling, a lot of purification process. If you do not do that work, you are still on a mission, but you are not manifesting your true mission. You are doing just unconscious acts which are taking you different paths and different ways, but you're still fulfilling the mission. But the question is, if you are aligned to your truth, and you really want to use your full potential in this short span of life, or you don't. You know, we have a differentiation between we human beings and between other creatures of this world, like the animal kingdom or the mineral kingdom or the plant kingdom, you know. We have a consciousness, a higher consciousness, which animals do not have. We can evolve in a way the animals would never be able to do, right? We have that higher potential, which animals would never have that higher potential. We do have that free will, how we want to evolve in this life. We have that option also to create harm and to create unity in this world.
Harm or harmony?
Exactly. So going back to your question, which was...
Yeah, but before that...
why do we have so much separation?
Yeah, why do we have so much separation? I thought that would be good for people to hear.
Very
but at the same time, it's like, it's that sense again that when we say, for example, you know, when humans say that we have become, or we've evolved into this sort of higher state of awareness and consciousness, for whatever reason, consciousness is flowing through us in a way that maybe it doesn't in so-called animals and other sentient beings. At the same time, then what come up to me, I was thinking of the whale, and I was thinking of certain, you know, creatures, like, for example, the whale who lives in the sea, who, by just their very being and the fact that they've been around for way longer than humans, right? And that if they didn't secrete their poop into the sea and also create, I can't remember the actual name of some form of algae or something on the sea, and so oxygenate the sea, we would also not be able to exist.
Yes.
So there's again that sense of like
completeness.
Yeah, there's that sense of
already everything set.
Yeah, and there's
set up.
Yeah, and there's also that sense that like when we're aware of that we're the interconnectedness with the whole ecosystem and the whole of this experience here. And that, like you said at the beginning, we're not just this physical body, but we're a part of that whole. Then I start to dance into this essence of who I am beyond this so-called Simon who walks around and speaks and does this other stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's like because what I find sometimes is this separation again is sort of almost a figment of our imagination, that we are, you know, separate from all that is. Yeah, even on the link that we're breathing the same oxygen that the trees, you know, have regenerated for us, and they're now breathing in what we're giving out. Yes. Right? Just that link of nature to nature is blows my mind. Right?
Yes, unity is the key for this age.
Yeah, but it's the awareness of that unity, no?
Yes.
Because like, what is the big shift? The big shift is like, I'm a separate being. I don't know who I am. I'm insignificant, and what I do doesn't have any impact on anything, and I have no purpose, no meaning, and no mission. Right? That's one aspect.
Yes, and just let's enjoy life.
Yeah, or let's enjoy life, or I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I don't really ask the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, and I get by, and shit happens, and then I die. Right? So you've got that one aspect of the experience. Of course, there's many versions of that.
Yes.
And then you've got this aspect of maybe the evolving consciousness that seems to be becoming more, or at least for us and many of the circles that we're in, and I'm sure has been around for thousands, not I'm sure, I know has been around for thousands upon thousands of years as well, but maybe not as dominant or prominent. Then you've got this sense of collaboration, co-creation, we're all unified, we're all connected, you know, ecosystem within ourselves, we are beyond form. There is no time. There's no
borders.
No borders. No beginning. No end. We're multi-dimensional, interstellar beings that are already existing on all planes all at once, right? And that this physical body is just one aspect of that evolving awareness, right?
Yes.
And as the awareness drives deeper, we have a choice to dissolve those older aspects of ourselves and actually open to what consciousness is calling and dive into the ocean of bliss.
Yes.
But
keep on saying.
But I want you to speak to this. But do you see how there's a part of me, Simon, the identity of Simon, that the ego aspect of myself goes, oh yes, Wasn't that great? Wasn't that well explained? Yes, look at me. I've just described where we're going, so I must know more. And then there's that other sort of aspect of me going, no, dissolve that, that limited self and come into the vastness.
But also remember that that unity which we want to vibrate to the world, it starts within.
Right.
Everything starts within, and that's when we go back to the initial thing, commitment, which I really highlighted. We need to commit to that. We need to, we need to work with ourselves first, because we cannot change the world if this inside of us it's not complete, it's not transparent, it's not unified. This, we like to talk about mind, body, spirit, but in the end of the day, if I look around people, I can see that it's really separated, Yeah. There are spiritual communities which is all about spirituality and meditation, but they neglect the body. Right? And then I go, because I was a professional athlete, so I've been into that world, and it's all about physicality and how I can be the best, and no matter what, I use this and that and harm myself just to make it to the top, And then there is the mind, which is those people who spend their lifetime on studying and getting diplomas after diplomas and papers after papers, and they're running after that, and then what, So these are separate things. They are not gonna give us a complete understanding of who am I.
Right.
So what my intention is,
your invitation is
the
three
is that no matter what your weakness is, because you can be the type of person for yourself, maybe it's difficult one part, or I'm sure that is difficult, because we have strength and we have weaknesses, and we always like to work on our strength from childhood. The parents see that this child is very smart, so we should push him or her to study hard, because then he will achieve something. Or you see in this child, this is very sportive, he has a good structure, he's gonna become a very successful athlete. Or this guy is this and that, and it's wrong, because we are separating, going back to your problem, the separation. Why is this happening in this world? Because we decide that we need to be perfect in this field, we need to perfect in that field and this field, and it's just taking away our completeness
and balance.
And that is a beautiful keyword, balance. And that's why when I say, when we practice yoga, you usually hear that balance on your yoga mat, balance in your life.
Right.
Why is that? Because we need to find this balance, and that commitment that I take care of this body, I take care of my mind and take care of my spirit, it's just a remedy for understanding us, who am I, because then I have the right, better choices in my life, in my relationships, in my service to humanity. But in the end of the day, every single day we need to have a structure in a way that we can nourish these elements, which is one. It's not separable. Everything which we conceptualize, these are all concepts we are talking about, right? It's concepts. And once we work with concepts, we also need to know that this is just for the mind to understand, right?
Yeah.
But when we meditate, there are no concepts.
Yeah, so we want to use the concepts to dissolve the concepts.
Exactly.
And use the commitment to bring
but we need the concept.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Hold that thought.
We do need the concept, and we are never forget, in my understanding, because I'm dealing with this, and this, and all I can see is that I'm so much committed to nourish all these elements and to find that very, very difficult balance, which is called life. I'm a father of 2 children. I'm a husband of a beautiful wife. I'm a businessman. I'm a yoga teacher. I am a hippie.
Lots of identities.
Lot of identities, right? But it's all okay if we are not stick to it.
Yeah, you're not stick to it if you're not attached to it.
Not attached to it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
So going back to the commitment, and I just wanted to give my commitment. So I commit myself that for example, I daily nourish this body. No matter what, I do exercise every day. Even if it's a bad day, or I'm tired, or I have this and I'm sick, you know, even when I'm sick, I exercise because I know it's healing.
That's why I call him the mighty Balazs.
So I need this physical nourishment, and I need to nourish this body with the right food. That's why I'm committed to being vegan. And there are other reasons, but
actually I want to just throw in there as well, again, for people, this is a great point, and also for people listening, is that we look out into the world and society, and if we just use our common sense and we look at what we're seeing, and I'm speaking from my own experience, I see a vast number, I don't know how about percentages because I haven't measured it, a vast number of the human body that is neglected, depleted, not alive, not thriving, and seriously tired, wounded. You know, we can only just see that in our obesity pandemic across the world. So then you've got the body is right instantly taken out. So if your body is that let's say depleted, is probably the best word to choose, then instantly you're losing one of the three pillars to access who you really are, because the body can't go there anyway, because the body won't go there.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So I don't know if that was relevant, but for me it was, just to make that distinction. And then if we go into, like you said earlier, the mind, which is somebody's just working on the mind, intellectual concepts, intellectual, and they're not doing the body, or they're not playing with the, you know, the spirit aspect of us, the infinite, then again, they're depleted because there's that, you know, and vice, you know, and and link
definitely. So
you're saying, just to be clear, sorry, the commitment is the key point of the path to who we really are.
Yes.
Okay.
And the commitment to these three elements, the mind, the body, and the spirit, that we should, or I know you don't like these words, but let's say not should and not have to, but say
I think the invitation,
we embrace that we actually do our part of this universe
for ourselves
and for our
greater
existence, you know,
and for the gift that we've been given,
life. Exactly, because it's given to us so that we can use it for the right purpose.
Right. So actually, what came up for me is you just said that. It's funny, isn't it? Because when we talk about purpose and we talk about, you know, meaning, and we talk about a mission, often we're still caught in the limitations of the material. Does that make sense? So we go like, well, my purpose is to become rich, or my purpose is to, you know, do something sort of often outside of ourselves and in the limitations of our society and culture. Whereas actually what you're pointing to is that the mission is bigger than that, because it's like you've been given this gift of life, you're part of this beautiful gift of life.
Definitely.
And that actually, as we work on that unification within ourselves, that purification ourselves, we naturally tap in to the bigger picture, the bigger meaning, the bigger purpose.
Yes.
Which supersedes all these other small ones of like, you know, I want to own 20 cars, or I want to, you know, become famous, or I want to make a film, or I want to, you know, do these sort of, which are not bad for people maybe on this path doing that, but they're still limited.
Yes. And the reason why it happens, in my understanding, is because we are not truthful. Transparency. Yes. So we go into your topic, and this is something I also wanted to mention beside commitment, actually, that truthfulness, it's my master who says truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. It's coming from Balazs, who lived in the 19th century. And he transformed my life when I first heard that sentence, you know. Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. So until you are truthful, all the other things cannot happen.
Or birth.
It cannot be born.
Yeah.
You cannot truly love, you cannot truly be kind, you cannot truly be friend, patient, all these other virtues are free. Nothing until you are truthful. And I think that is the most difficult thing which we need to go through in order to actually start the journey of who am I. Nice. That's where it starts, with the birth of our truth. Nice. The birth of our truth to towards ourselves and towards others. And how can it happen? You know, how can that truth transparently come through you? This is a very, very important question.
Yeah.
And that for that we need to look deep into ourselves, and we need to have mirrors.
Yes.
We need to have mirrors, which is not something that to abuse you, but to help you to be more transparent, to be more aware.
To have you see, to
Yes.
truly see beyond the scenes.
Yes, exactly. And to be very much humble to those people who actually hurt you, or those people who are actually pushing those buttons, and you suddenly understand that, okay, that person who is continuously bothering you, it has to do with you. And then you understand that, and then he can push those buttons, and it's not coming anymore.
Yeah.
So there when you really live that truth within you, there's no more argument, because you do not need to prove anything in your relationships.
Yeah.
Or when you do something bad unconsciously, you need to learn how to be truthful in it and say, I'm very sorry, you know?
Yeah.
And you need to learn how to forgive, to be truthful. There is so many leakages in this existence of me or you.
It's like we blasted open, and then we're coming back to like stitch ourselves together to realize that we're already whole and complete.
Yes.
But we needed to be fragmented in order to realize what was required. And some people don't even do that in this one time in the physical, right? I love how it came full circle to transparency, because often people say to me about transparency, they say, oh, you know, how do I be transparent? Transparency seems so difficult and hard, and like, you know, I don't want to be transparent all the time, and you know, I don't want to be truthful, and it hurts people, and I'm like, well, you was just transparent right there.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
It's like, I don't know what the answer is. Transparency right there.
Yes.
You know, I'm scared of, you know, who I am or who I'm not or what. Beautiful. Transparency right there.
Starting point?
Isn't that a good starting point?
Yes.
Because then that leads the foundation, the soil for the next step of truthfulness, the next step. And it's funny what you said your teacher says, is that yes, that leads to all the other virtues because the foundation is pure, you know. But even that purity takes gentleness and persistence and patience, because sometimes I've met people that think they're being truthful and think they're true.
Yes.
And then when they actually look closer, like you said, with maybe some true mirror reflections and diving a bit deeper and closing the eyes and meditating for longer, you start to go, okay, you know, that's what we mean by truth.
Yes.
Or that's how I have to show up. Or that's what has to be changed.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're pointing to when you say, who am I? It's like, you think you might know who you are, but who are you beyond who you think you are?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you see how it,
observer.
because then it takes you away from, you know, you just thinking you know who you are, right?
Yes.
Because that's what your invitation is, right? With your workshops, with your yoga, with your life, is the invitation is, you know, what's beyond what you think you're seeing, what's beyond what you think you're feeling, what's beyond what you think you're being. And I just want to say to people watching is that this is Sutton listening. I'm always mentioning the watchers and the listeners now because I have both. And, you know, I personally have been skimming the surface of meditation for several years now. And when I say skimming the surface, I really mean that. It's like I'm scratching the surface of a mountain. And when I meet people and they're still in our stage of evolution, so challenged with doing 10 minutes of sitting in silence.
Yes.
And I'm always saying, wow, I know that feeling. And I'm wanting to take that to an hour, 2 hours. And when I sit for 2 hours, the funny thing is it feels so beautiful. But to get to that point, past the hour and a half, past that initial half hour, you know, we have to, you know, do the work.
And what does it require?
Persistence and commitment.
Exactly.
It does, doesn't it? It requires a commitment, and then you start to tap into the deeper message and results of what it's inviting.
Yes, and if you commit into your truth, just to probably close the frame.
Yeah.
So if you're committed to your truth, everything will unfold.
Yeah.
Because there is no other way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
When the sun is out and it shines, you feel it.
Yeah.
Even if the clouds are coming, it's still coming through, because you can even get
a suntan.
Suntan, yeah? Or even you can get burned.
Yeah.
Many people do get burned, and you don't feel it.
Yeah.
So the truth, which I compared it with the sun, which is the source of all knowing, is always shining upon us all the time.
Yeah.
We just need to tap in. We need to open our curtains of all those layers which we were given, or we put ourselves up because we are afraid because of all these things. And then the sun is teaching us about the truth. And that requires commitment and following spiritual laws, because those spiritual laws are there for us. That was given to us.
Well, they're keys, aren't they? They're keys to open.
Yes.
Access, other access points of yourself.
So I do not believe in that concept of spirituality means that, you know, go with the flow and just the power of now and enjoy the moment. It's not enough, because in that sense of being in the here and now, it is also an invitation of many times for many people. I'm not saying that is
you're not generalizing.
Yes, I'm trying not to generalize, but I feel many times that it brings a lot of laziness into the picture, you know, when we see the power of now and enjoy the moment, and love and hugs and all these things are so beautiful, but we need to be committed. We do need mission in our life, which drives us towards something more what we are today. Each day it gives us something which guide us towards that unfoldment of this gift called life.
And the unfoldment of the wholeness that we already are.
Exactly.
That's what I like is I love what Rumi said. Again, I quote him, I know, but a lot. But the Rumi, it's like, you know, our mission is to drop down all the walls and the layers that we've built up against our love, our truth, you know, the truth of who we are. So this conversation can, you know, bob and weave, and I think what's lovely is this is an invitation of a conversation for people as well. And I feel that's what you do in your workshop. You're always saying, you know, that question of who you are is that you're always bringing that question to people, you know, in a gentle way, through your yoga, through your workshops, through your events, and so on. Because then the individual can go on that quest of asking that themselves and bring something to you, to us, to the world from their own journey into
so
it.
It's important not to follow what I say, like this is the way, but follow the truth of the person. What is your truth? What is your discovery? What did you bring up to your life for today? Because we are in different places, and
but when we all find but when we all go on that quest to ask that question, it will connect. Yes. Okay, great. There you go. We had enough time. I was a little concerned today with the camera, if it was going to last, and it did. So
divine reassurance.
Divine cameraing from our cameraman there, Divine Source, just over there. Thanks for showing up. Spaciousness. You did a great job. And thank you to Balazs for breaking my patio doors, and so that we could actually get out here. The doors are broken for life. No. So there you go, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. This is the mighty Balazs Heller. You can see some links below the videos if you want to explore what he's up to. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing your moments of illusionary time with us. And also, if you would like to support these videos, support my offerings to our collective evolution, then please become a patron of the sofa. Wow. It's taking my hat, new hair. It suits him, huh? More. All right, we should get you a nice hat. Become a patron of the sofa. Look at the link below. Support these videos to continue. Thank you, everybody. Take care. The mighty, the one and only, the biggest hug you've ever going to see. Wow. Yeah. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.